In tonight's workshop, we're going to talk about starting a business when you can't get a job. The reason I'm running this particular workshop is because I think there's a lot of people who are currently out of work, who are having difficulty finding work, and what they need is a little bit of help in figuring out how to start a business so they don't have to keep looking for a job. Or alternatively, to start a business so that they can earn money while they're looking for a job, or to make additional income while they have a job. With that in mind, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So let's start by talking about why starting a business is something that you might want to think about if you're unemployed. If you're like millions of people who have been struggling for months to get a job, it's probably time to start considering starting a business, because you can start earning revenue right away. You can give yourself the work and experience that you want, and you can create new opportunities for yourself going forward. Many very successful people have started businesses for all these reasons. I started my first business right as I got out of college, as I just mentioned a few moments ago, and sometimes I would have it as my sole means of support. Sometimes I would have a business or two that I was running in addition to having a full-time job because somebody paid me enough to work for them full-time. Sometimes I was running a business simply because I wanted to pick up new skills, and the easiest way for me to pick up new skills was simply to start a business that allowed me to work with the people who had those skills, or to work with people who needed those skills so I would learn them, and I would have a reason to learn them in order to provide those services. The next question I think it's important to ask is, now a good time? If you're currently out of work and you can't find a job, a low-cost or no-cost minimum risk startup business that generates any revenue is already a worthwhile venture. If you find a way to generate revenue by providing any product or any service to customers profitably, then you can make some level of money whenever you want. Not just now, but going forward. In a way, you're a little business that you can run profitably, even if it generates relatively little revenue. It's like an ATM machine that you can pull money out of at any given time. Starting a business shows initiative and independence and innate creativity. It looks good on your resume, and that's really handy if you want a job and a business, or even if you just want to start doing the work that you hope somebody is going to hire you to do full-time. Learning how to find customers, how to choose opportunities, how to deliver value, and close sales are skills that will help you start businesses, run businesses, invest in businesses, and work for businesses. It's a very educational experience to start a company. You learn a lot, and it makes you more effective in any economic endeavor you choose to engage in. Whether you've never had a job before or have had really high-paying positions, you can learn how to start and run a business that meets your needs. A business is something that you can start, and you can own, and you can grow, and then sell like a house. The way that most successful business owners retire is they sell the business that they have created. Some people who are very good at starting up companies, they spend 2, 3, or 4 years getting a business up and running, and then they sell it to somebody. And then they do it again and again and again and again. So it's very much like flipping houses. I think one of the things that sets me apart from a lot of people that say that they'll help you start a business is I have a real fixation on creating sane and sensible businesses. I think that starting a business, a low-risk, straightforward, easy-to-run business, is very sane, it's very sensible, and it helps you in a wide variety of ways. It is a sane and sensible decision to start a business because it gives you options. Many, if not most, businesses are started because a founder can't get a job, or can't earn what they want to, or can't really do what they want to do. These reasons for starting a business are the rule rather than the exception They make perfect sense. And if you're thinking about starting a business now, for the reasons that I've addressed here, it's a really smart decision because chances are it'll help you in a wide variety of ways. Sometimes people own and operate their business just long enough to get a great job, and then they give it up. Some people turn a business they start into the last job they ever have. Some people do a combination of those things. They have a job that they do full time, and then they use a business that they enjoy running to generate a lot of revenue on the side going forward. You can start your business in the black. You can elect to start your business in profit by finding paying customers for what you sell before you start spending money. There are people all around you who need things that you can provide, whether it's house sitting, computer services, tutoring services, cleanup services, hanging window boxes, etc. Finding out what the people you can easily reach need and then providing them that is a very fast path to profit. Create products and services. Often, the easiest businesses to start are those based on products and services you can easily provide, directly to paying customers that you can easily reach. From wedding photography, mowing lawns, sweeping porches, painting murals, or writing books, you get to decide what you do and who you do it for. Occasionally, a new business owner will be able to sell products instead of services, like cool merch, attractive scarves, coloring books, etc. That can be very lucrative. My point being that when you think about starting a business and you don't have a job, you're not making a decision that's radical, and you're not making one that other people would never consider. You're actually doing what most people who start businesses do. You're finding a way to earn what you want to earn and to do what you really want to do by finding people near you that you can easily reach to serve. One of the key issues you have to address when you start a business, and in my opinion, one of the issues that many new business owners or entrepreneurs tend to gloss over, is the issue of getting paid. Young businesses often die waiting for customers to pay them. If you sell services, you usually need to get paid in advance on jobs that take more than 8 hours of your time. You cannot afford to wait. You cannot afford to work for more than a day without getting paid. That is why lawyers ask you to pay a retainer up front when you hire them, then send you itemized bills as they work, telling you how much of your retainer they have used up. This is because lawyers are smart. They understand that time is something that people can't give back to you. So when you are selling your product, when you are selling your services to somebody, you need to make sure that if they're going to employ you for more than a day, they pay you up front. And if that's not the case, you may want to think about taking the service that you're planning to spend a day or more on and breaking it up into smaller services that people can pay you as soon as they're finished. For example, if you sell a room painting service, you might get $250 for prepping the room to be painted, $400 for painting the walls, and $200 for painting the woodwork. That way, if you don't get paid at any step along the way, you can stop work. If materials are required, you should ask the customer to buy them and get paid up front by the customer to buy them. Jobs that only take an hour or two might be paid for after delivery, but always remember that if someone doesn't pay you, you should never work for them again. It's a big mistake to believe they didn't pay me last time when they were supposed to, but next time they'll be different. No, they will not be different. They will be exactly the same. Young businesses need to get paid for products they sell on delivery. It's not a good thing when you're first starting out to have people say, oh, if you give me those products, I will sell them on consignment. If people don't pay for things, if you, like, for example, if you go to a boutique store and you've got these great candles or whatever that you've created and they really like them, and they say, oh, I can't give you any cash for them, but I'll sell them on consignment. One, if they really like them, they would pay for them because they pay for the other stuff in their shop. Two, if they do like them, they can afford to pay something for them, and the question then is how much. If They take the product away from you because they haven't paid for it. They will not value it. And it might well be the case that it doesn't sell because they never sell it, or they never tell people, hey, take a look at this. And also, even if it does sell, you might not get your money. So if you're a young business, you really need to get paid for your products when you give them to the people who are buying them. And that includes shopkeepers and so forth. Generally, your price has to be 3 times your cost for profitability. And if you think about somebody who, if you think, look, running this business is only going to be worth my while if I make about $25 an hour. Okay, that means your minimum price has got to be about $75 an hour. The reason is that you're going to need to pay taxes, and there'll be incidental costs that you have to cover, including selling, including the time you spend marketing your work and getting people to say yes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So most people consider 3 times their hourly cost to be the minimum price they can charge for a service they're going to offer. And those who break that rule find themselves losing money and going out of business and getting pretty dejected pretty quickly because they just don't have enough money to survive. The same is true for products. Although people are buying the products, so in a way you're not getting paid by the hour, whether you're purchasing those products or you are creating those products, let's say you're the person creating candles, you're going to have to earn about 3 times the amount for all those costs in order to make a profit. The other question we really have to address is how you're going to take your money. PayPal is widely used and people can pay by credit. The cool thing about PayPal is almost everybody has a PayPal account. Almost everybody has used a PayPal account. And if you make it so when people say, hey, yes, I want to pay you, how can I pay you? If you say, here's my PayPal email address, or you can send them an invoice through PayPal, a lot of times payment won't become an issue because they're comfortable paying you. Stripe works well. Setting up Stripe isn't as easy as setting up PayPal, but it doesn't take much longer. And particularly if you're running a website, you may find that Stripe has better terms than PayPal does. And if you're just using your website to take credit cards, you might as well use Stripe. Some people use Venmo. Some people use Zelle. Some people use cash. Some people accept checks. I don't think accepting checks is usually very smart because checks can be stopped. And if they bounce, they can incur fees. So generally, PayPal, Stripe, Venmo, Zelle, and cash are the options that I think most people who are running a business will find the most comfortable for their customers, as well as the most effective way for them to get money into their bank account, which we'll be talking about in just a moment. If you get a really big job that really wants to pay a premium price, look for services that will offer credit to your customers or who will factor and buy your invoices. That will allow you to get paid in full up front or for every invoice the customer accepts. In this case, a second company is going to be providing the credit. And the reason that I mention this is when people are first starting a business, especially those that have really high value skills, one of the issues is that the people they're working with don't have enough money to pay them, or they don't have enough money in their hand or in their bank account at the moment to pay them. And so what they do is they ask the new business owner to front those costs. They basically ask you to take a risk that you're going to pay them. If you can find it, there's like 1 million companies that will factor invoices such that you sign a contract with somebody and they say they want the work, you set up the terms of the agreement, and you have a contract. There's a whole bunch of companies who will factor those invoices. And that means that you'll get paid every time you turn in an invoice. The company will pay you, and then they will go to the customer and collect from them. And that takes you out of the collection business. Also, there are companies that will finance big purchases. So if you find that you really could make a lot more money working with customers, very few of them have the cash to pay you, you can use these kinds of tools, these kinds of businesses, to actually offer credit to them so you don't have to offer credit to them. And this is how many companies handle their cash flow issues for big projects. Almost every big company that has a big job come in where the customer doesn't have the cash in hand to pay them will try to find some way to make it so they don't have to front the cost of offering those people credit and take the risk of offering those people credit, simply because it is a risk and they're not in the business of offering credit or evaluating how creditworthy someone is. There are companies that are capable of determining whether or not somebody deserves credit and whether or not they're likely to pay their invoices. So you might as well allow those people to handle those issues for you. When I run workshops, I always make it very clear I do not offer legal or tax advice. And I strongly encourage everyone, and in fact, one of the reasons I run the events is so I can strongly encourage everyone to get legal and tax advice specific to them and to their company and to their location, because there's no reason not to. There are people, if you're somebody who is a lawyer, you're almost always looking for work. There's hundreds of lawyers in your area that are actively looking to find new customers, and businesses are the best customers on earth. So if you contact them and you say, hey, I'm starting up a business and I don't know if you're interested in helping me set up my company, but if you are, I'd like to know how your pricing works and what you would do to help me. And if you need somebody to provide you with tax advice because your company is going to have to pay taxes, or you're going to have to pay taxes on behalf of your company, depending on how you set up your business. If you reach out to tax advisors, you'll be able, and especially if you reach out to 5 or 10 of them, you will be able to find someone who will help you set up your company correctly, who will make sure that your taxes are going to get paid correctly, and you need to develop those business relationships in order to run your company safely. A lot of new business owners don't realize that most tax people that do taxes as a business for companies, and most lawyers that work with companies, offer free consultations. And they're not going to give away everything for free, but you're going to actually hire them to do something, right? If you speak to an attorney, chances are you're going to have them set up your business. And if you are talking to a tax advisor and it seems like a good fit, chances are you're going to hire them to do some of the things that you need to do for your company so that you can pay taxes, and to give you advice about how to set up bank accounts or whatever. I don't offer legal and tax advice. I'm going to tell you what I do, because I think it's important to hear business owners actually talk about what they do, generally speaking, but I'm not recommending necessarily you follow in my footsteps, and I'm certainly not going to tell you how to do these things, because you need legal advisors and tax advisors to help you. In the past, when I've started up new businesses, I've set up an LLC, and my tax advisor has subsequently ensured it is taxed like an S-Corp. I got an EIN number for that company, and I set up a bank account, and when I run the company, I put all the money the company earns into that bank account. When I want to pay myself or others, I use a payroll service. I happen to currently use Gusto, and that makes sure that when my business can give me a paycheck the same as any other company in the world can give me a paycheck. And that makes sure that all of my taxes are paid, and make sure that my unemployment insurance is paid, and make sure that my Social Security payments are made, etc. I pay someone to do my taxes, and I call them whenever I have questions about how to handle tax issues. And if I get messages, as people do, from the government about how I've done my taxes or failed or missed a payment or done some crazy thing, they handle those things for me, and they tell me when to write a check and when I'm getting money back. My company, when I have an LLC, my LLC has a tax return that it has to file each year, and I also have my own personal tax return to file as well, and I use one person to do both. I have never wanted to do my own taxes. I have done it for many years, but it's so much better to have somebody else do it, and it really doesn't cost that much. And because I do hire somebody to do those things for me, they're quite happy to answer questions if I have them. I find that if I want to take home $50 an hour or $100 an hour, $200 an hour, I have to ask customers to pay me about 3 times that in order to cover all my costs, including my taxes and so forth. Generally, when it comes to taking payments, I prefer to use PayPal or Stripe to get paid because people can use credit cards or debit cards. Venmo and Zelle are great, and they work perfectly well for some people, particularly those people that sell at swap meets and farmers markets and so forth. For some reason, those venues seem to really Venmo and Zelle. I tend to hire lawyers by the hour, and I use contracts. Usually they have a contract, and I write down specifically what I want them to do. And I've hired them in a variety of different places. I don't know that I recommend any particular ones, but Upwork, Hire and Esquire, Contracts Council, you can shop around for places to find lawyers as good as me. All right, the reason that I wanted to cover that information is none of it's rocket science. It really is not. Very straightforward. And this should not be the thing that holds you back. Knowing how to do this part of starting a business, setting up the right company structure with help of an attorney, setting up the right tax infrastructure by working with somebody who does taxes for businesses on a regular basis, and making sure that you can get paid are all things that you can do. None of it is hard, and the sooner you do it, the sooner you'll be able to run your business. And more importantly, you'll be able to start any business you want to start going forward. You'll also, by the way, be able to tell when somebody is running a business very badly. One of the interesting things as one learns how to start businesses, every so often you run into somebody who's running their business and has not done these things, and you find out why you do them, because they run into trouble with the state and federal authorities over taxes, or because their company structure wasn't set up correctly and it's turned into legal hassles for them, or they don't use a payroll service and they try to pay people under the table, and they find out why you don't do that. So I hope this information is useful, and I hope that as you start exploring how you're going to meet these obligations, the idea that you can reach out to people for free consultations proves useful to know. Let's talk about the fast start businesses, the ones that you can start very quickly that are very likely to be profitable right from the start. First of all, many people find services are easiest to sell at first. Services simply rely on you to do things you know how to do with equipment you already have that you actually enjoy. It's important to pick short, quick, easy, no-risk projects to start. Helping people clean out their garage, cooking them a meal, running errands for them, taking their dogs for a walk are all viable businesses. If you have higher-end skills like acting, technical writing, book editing, building websites, pressure washing sidewalks, tutoring, coaching, physical training, you can monetize those skills instead. Some people really do have the ability to create products that people love easily. If you're one of those fortunate people, it can be a really great way to make a living. Some people can churn out 12 handmade baby quilts in a couple of afternoons, and they can sell them for $100 each and spend only $100 in materials. And that gives them a pretty solid start on a good business. The important thing is to figure out how much per hour you're getting paid for the time in production and getting the sale. In order to grow a business, you need to be able to cover labor costs, including your own labor costs. So it's not just people that you hire, but yourself. Also, if you are creating products, realize that if you're going to expand the number of products that you create, if you're either going to increase the number of products that you create or the type of products you create, you're going to have to purchase equipment, or you're going to have to start working with services that you're not currently working with, or you're going to have to hire people to replace you doing some of the things that you're doing so you can do other things that pay more. So if you don't factor in the fact that you have to get paid at a reasonable level, it's really hard to swap that job over to somebody else because they're going to want to get paid reasonably, and liberate you so you can do other things. One of the things that I like to do is give people exercises that can make a really big impact on them very quickly. Create a list of 20 things you could do for people you know right now who would pay you. Force yourself to think of 50 people you know by name who would want that service. And don't worry about if it's stuff that you want to do or whether or not they would pay enough. The exercise is just to learn to see customers. One of the things that leads to people feeling trapped and feeling like they can't start a business is they say things like, nobody could want this, or nobody would want that, or I'm not good enough to do this, or I'm not good enough to do that, or there's nobody who would buy anything from me. If you force yourself to sit down and think of 20 things that you could sell to 50 people that you know personally by name, you'll start to realize that there's customers all around you everywhere, and that they're buying things from people like you all the time. And they would just as soon buy stuff from you. They would buy your services, they would buy your products. The problem is not with them, it's with you. The problem is that you can't see that they have needs that need to be met, desires that they would need, that desire help that no one is providing, and that if you would just help meet those needs, you could start a business relatively easily. The next thing I'd like you to do is create a list of 20 things you could physically create and sell to people, and write down what they would pay for the things, little or big. Make sure that you write down the names of the people that would buy those things. So let's say, for example, people in your neighborhood, all throughout the winter, they just have fires in their fireplace. But it's a hassle, and it's expensive getting wood to put in their fireplace. You could sell the business of going and getting a truckload of wood at a really cheap price, and then bundling it up and dropping it off on their doorstep, so they have wood to put in their fireplace that they didn't have to go lug home from a store or hire somebody else to deliver them at a much higher rate. The objective is to force yourself to see the people around you and what they need and want. Real people with real money are what businesses are based on. If you do these exercises, and perhaps more important, do them a few times, you'll get really good at seeing many businesses that you can easily start. Let's talk for a moment about sales, because I think it's a thing that holds a lot of people back from starting a business. Sales is actually really straightforward if you pick the right business and the right customer. And I have my favorite example is selling cookies to Boy Scouts. You can imagine that if you went to a Boy Scout jamboree and you had fresh baked cookies and set up a little stand, you'd have a line right away. And if you could sell 3 cookies for $1, don't you think you'd have 1 million customers? And how complex is that pitch going to be? You're going to say, I have cookies, 3 for $1. And then 300 kids are going to line up with $1 in their hand to give you, because they want to get the cookies. When you have a really good business, that's how hard sales is, because you have the right product and you know exactly who wants that product. Customers, let's just take a moment and define what customers are. Customers are people who have money and a real need that you can meet, and they are everywhere all the time. They're in your church, they're in your school, they're in your neighborhood, and they're even in your online communities. Now, if you want, you can run ads or events to find more customers, but you might just want to start with the people around you first. You can also find people who have customers to share. For example, if you live near a pet shop and they have no kennel, well, about 400 people go into that pet shop and say, hey, can you babysit my dog over the weekend? Or, hey, can I leave my dog here for a couple of hours because I need to go to a meeting? People need kennel services, and that pet shop is hearing about them every minute of every day. So if you can meet that need, like you live close by and you happen to have a house and there's room to have dogs milling about, and you really like dogs, there's a business that you can start, because you can go to the pet shop and say, hey, I can provide a little kennel service, and if you mention me, I can give you a percentage of the sale, and maybe it'll also help customers decide that they're very happy that they work with you. Now, let's talk for a moment about pitching. As a brand new business owner, you really do not have time for a hard sell. New business owners do not have time to create long, exhaustive descriptions of the services that they can provide to a particular customer. Really, you just want your target market to hear about your services and buy them right away. And that happens all the time if you're offering the right thing to the right people. If your product and your target market are a fit, pitching is just telling them or showing them what you do and then saying, do you want me to do this for you, or would you like to have this? The other thing is, when you're pitching to the right people and they buy, they have a tendency to tell other people who need the same thing that they just bought about you. And that translates into you getting more business because you get referrals. There's a old saying that's quoted in I've seen quoted in a number of sales books, that one happy customer turns into 3 new sales. One unhappy customer turns into 9 people who will never work with you. So, another good reason to find customers that have something that you can easily provide and then sell it to them is that they are very likely to recommend you to other people who have the same needs. Sometimes I think when people are starting businesses, they come up with these really complex, convoluted businesses that they want to run. Yes, they want to do a pet sitting service, but before they can do the pet sitting service, they must create an app. No, you don't actually have to create an app to have a pet sitting service. You really don't need that. Or they'll think, I definitely want to help people write their book, but before I do that, I have to get a 200-page contract written that outlines the services I will provide and the services that I won't provide. And it's most people who are hiring people to write a book are not going to read a 200-page contract. Other people provide the service without the 200-page contract. You should find out how they're doing it. Because you can't, obviously you can't create these giant roadblocks between people that want to buy what you're selling and the product or service that you are trying to give them. If you're having trouble pitching, it's probably because you're pitching something too complex. If you're having trouble finding customers, it's probably because you are not talking to enough people who have real needs that you are very close to and who you can easily reach, because those people are all around you all the time, and you might as well work for them and support them and provide services to them rather than try to find a whole bunch of people that you know nothing about who are only available to you if you run ads on YouTube or on Facebook or on Twitter. Now let's talk about closing. Many people who have not run a business before think closing is hard. Closing is not hard. Closing, if you're selling something that somebody wants, if you're selling cookies to Boy Scouts, closing is very easy. It is literally, I have cookies and do you want one? It's just asking for them to say, it's just asking them, do you want this? And if so, give me my $1. If closing is hard, chances are good that you don't have the right customer, or you haven't, your pitch is not, you haven't explained it well enough to them, or they just don't want it. And one of the ways that you find out what position you're in is by trying to close, which is to say, ask for the money. In many cases, closing looks like you just answering people's questions and then saying, so, are you ready to buy? For example, you tell people you have cookies and they say, do you have oatmeal? And you say, no, sadly, just chocolate chip and ginger snap. Do you want 3 of those? When you ask, want 3 of those? That's an attempt at a close. You're saying, okay, I do not have the oatmeal you asked for. I do have these 3 things. Would you like one of them? And then their next answer has to be either yes or no. If it's yes, they give you the $3. If they say no, you can say, okay, because clearly they're not a customer for the cookies that you have. And then they'll go away, and you can go on to talking to somebody that might want to have the kind of cookies you actually have. On the other hand, if the customer says, hey, are your cookies made with brown sugar? You can say yes. So which one do you want? That is another attempt to close. And you know that they want your cookies because they're still talking to you after you said that you didn't have oatmeal, right? Why are they still talking to you? I told you only have chocolate chip and ginger snap, and now you're asking me if they're made with brown sugar, so I guess you want chocolate chip or ginger snap, as long as they're made with brown sugar, and mine are. Which one do you want, chocolate chips or ginger snaps? The point is, it's literally just asking them, okay, do you want this or do you not? That's the close. Do you want to move forward or do you want to stop? And really, always be closing is good advice. When you start talking to customers and you asking them routinely, why do you want this? Would you like to buy it? Are you interested? Do you want to move forward? Asking those questions routinely is a good idea because people will either buy or they'll tell you why they aren't buying. And why they are not buying may be useful information. For example, you may say, all right, here's my cookies, and I only have chocolate chip or ginger snap. And they say, no, I don't want those. I only like chocolate chip. Okay, now I know. If I'm going to make another batch of cookies, if I want this customer, I'm going to have to make chocolate chip because that is the only kind of cookie this guy's going to buy. And the only way I got that information was by asking him if he wanted to buy. Because he volunteered what he would buy. And most of the time when you're talking to customers, they will tell you, when they say, no, I don't want what you're offering, they will tell you why. And then you can decide whether or not you want to change what you're offering in the future. Now, pricing. Almost everybody gets pricing a little bit wrong at first. Creating the right bundle of services or the right product and getting it to the right customers and getting them to pay the right price is impossible right off the bat. You're going to have to experiment. Now, the customer sets the price they want to pay based upon the value they perceive that you're offering. So they look at what they currently pay for whatever solution they're currently buying, and they decide what your offering compares. Is it better? Is it worse? Is it more expensive? Is it less expensive? And then they decide if they want to buy. And generally speaking, they buy what they consider to be a quote-unquote good value. So let's say, for example, you were offering kenneling service, and you say, hey, I will babysit your dog, and I have a ranch, and it's a really wonderful place, and I charge $50 a day to take care of your dog and let it run around my ranch, and I bathe it once a week, and here's all the things I do. And they think, well, that's a good deal because I'm currently paying $100 a day for my dog to live in a cage. So you cost less and you're giving me something more. That's a good deal. I might take that. On the other hand, it could be the case that you're charging $100 and the guy putting the pets in the cage is charging $50. And the customer might say, even though this guy is $100, it's a much better value to have my dog running around this big old farm with a whole bunch of other dogs, living the life of Riley. I will not have to feel guilty when I'm traveling. I like that much better than paying these other folks, even if they're close to me, only $50 a day because I do not want my dog to be in a cage. So good value means the customer looks at how much they're spending and what they're getting and decides it has some kind of value. And then they look at what you're charging and what you're offering, and they decide whether or not that's a better or worse value. And if it's a better value, they're more likely to buy. Now, what's interesting is that you can change the price of your product or service. Let's say you've just really run into this problem where when you want to offer a dog grooming service at people's house. And by the way, I use these examples. I could use more exotic examples. I could do ones for computer services and so forth, or I could do one for being a script doctor. But how useful would that be? Nobody understands those issues. So I'm using dogs and cats and cookies and things because they're straightforward and everybody understands them. So let's say that you've got a lot of people living around you. They all have a bunch of dogs, and you don't have a place to take their dog to wash it, but you're perfectly happy to come to their house and bring a big tub and then wash their dog at their house while they can watch, and you bring a blow dryer and everything. But you want to charge $100 per dog bath. And these folks really only want to pay $50 because there's another place that's 2 miles away that they can go to that only charges $50. And it's not really worth it to them to pay you $100 for basically the same thing, even if you are making it a lot more convenient by doing it at their house, and even if you think it would be better for the dog, or they think it would be better for the dog. You can change what you offer. So The question is not how can I get them to say yes to $100. The question is what the hell can I give them for $50 that they will like? And it could be the case you go, let's see, maybe I will say I'll do it for $45, but they have to agree to give their dog a bath twice a month. Then you're getting, and also I will only bathe dogs that are under 20 pounds for that price, because big dogs are a lot more hassle. So you can keep the price and then change what you're offering. And then you can get them to pay you because you're turning what was not a good value for them in their eyes to something that is a good value. The question is just how. You have to change your product in order to get to the price that they want to pay. And I mention that because a lot of new business owners don't realize that you can not only change the price of something by making it lower, you can make the service better by adding elements to it, or you can take a low price and you can adjust the service that you're providing so you're comfortable doing it at the lower price. It is always a good idea when you're doing pricing at the very beginning, when you're first setting up your business, look at what others get paid by your customers for what they deliver. You do not have to be cheaper than all the competitors to do well, and you may well choose to be more expensive. In fact, some people believe if you're going to be starting a business, you should try to aim not for the middle price. If dog grooming ranges in price from $25 to $100, you should not aim for $60. You should aim for $75 or $80. And the reason is that you can offer, because you're an individual and because you don't have the same overhead as people who are charging more, you may be able to offer just about the same value as the person who is charging top dollar, but you'll be able to provide a more personal level of service and you'll still be able to make a profit. So the more you shop around and the more you talk to customers that you might want to work for about what they're currently doing or how much they're currently paying and what they like best and what they like worst and what they wish the person they're working with would do differently, or what they really hate about people they've worked with in the past, the more information you get about how to price correctly. And here's another important exercise. Think of 10 products or services that you could deliver and 5 ways you could deliver them. So let's say, for example, you're offering garage cleaning services. You could tell people, hey, I'll clean and organize your garage for you. Or you could say, hey, I'll help you clean and organize your garage. That might be better because it wouldn't just be you doing the work, it would be them doing the work as well. Or 3, I'll clean your garage and I'll bring 2 friends with me, and instead of it taking all day, it'll take 2 hours. Or I could clean their garage and sell their stuff on eBay for a percentage of the profit. So when people clean out their garage, they always find all this junk. A lot of it has high value. They spent money, they bought it, they've kept it in their garage for 5 years. So clearly it has some kind of value, but they don't want to have it anymore. They might really like somebody saying, hey, you've got a lot of good stuff here, I'll sell it on eBay, I'll give you a percentage of the profit that I make. So if it sells for $50, I'll give you $25. You, on the other hand, get the benefit of being able to sell stuff on eBay and picking up extra revenue you otherwise might not have got. Or 5, you could provide garage cleaning as a part of a house moving out cleaning service. So a lot of times when people move out of a house, they leave a whole bunch of junk behind. Or if they have an apartment, they leave a whole bunch of junk behind. You can go ahead and offer just to be the people who clean out the garage, in which case you don't really have to be careful because you're throwing all that stuff away, and that might be a really fast job that you don't have to charge a lot for. The point is, people sometimes get really attached to the first idea they have about the service that they're going to provide and really attached to the price they think they're going to charge if they would just go ahead and talk to the people they're going to be working for and find out what they have in mind and what they've paid in the past. They could find a sweet spot where they can provide something much better than the competition and at a price that is much better than the price that they initially had in mind, especially based upon the service they're going to provide, which is easier than the one they initially had in mind. After you think of 10 products or services you could deliver and 5 ways you could deliver them, think of these products and services and come up with pricing for them that would work for you. Like, for example, I want to get paid $40 an hour with a 4-hour minimum, get paid $300 a day, get $150 each for 2 people with a 3-hour minimum, get $25 an hour, and 50% of all eBay sales, get paid $800 to clean out a house and garage when people move out. Just forcing yourself to actually experiment with the building blocks of the business, of the price and the service that you're offering and the customers that you're serving, will have a dramatic impact on your ability to start a business. The world will open up and you'll go, oh, I see. What I was looking for has been here all along. So, good businesses are fast, they are easy, and they are low stress. They are simple to create and run because they are easy to understand and sell. The biggest mistake most new business owners make is making their product or service way too complicated. If you can't describe what you are selling in a couple of easy sentences, then it is way too complex. For example, I provide after-school tutoring to your kids while you make dinner. Your whole family gets a great meal, your kids get great grades, and you have a very relaxed evening. And then you can put a price on it. You can say, and that is $50 for $50 per training session. So you basically go to somebody's house, they got a couple of kids, you help them with their homework, and you treat them really nicely, and they're really happy to see you, and you're really happy to see them, and they have a relaxing time doing their homework. And meanwhile, the tired parent gets to cook dinner, everybody gets to sit down and have a nice dinner together, and you walk out of the house with $50. Everyone's happy, you're happy, they're happy, life goes on. Low risk. New business owners, new entrepreneurs cannot afford legal problems. They can't afford bad reviews. As an entrepreneur, you will likely find that if you do deals that are small and straightforward, things go very smoothly. I think it's always best to put whatever you're offering in writing so people know exactly what you're going to do, and put all the details about a product you're selling in so that people are sure they understand what they're buying, how much it costs, and what kind of warranty you provide. Can they get a refund? Do you offer a money-back guarantee? When you make business low risk for you, you're also making it low risk for your customers. Now let's talk about profitability. There's a few tricks I think that can help you start and keep your company in the black. And knowing them can help you sidestep most of the expensive mistakes that really get people in trouble when they're first getting started and creating their first business. First of all, if you sell a service, keep it short, sweet, well-defined, and limited by time. Telling people you'll write their book for them for $2,000 is crazy, because what if they ask you to write it and then they want 3,000 changes? It's much better to say, look, I'll give you my best attempt at a first draft of your book for $2,000, and then you can make changes for yourself, or I can make your changes for $50 an hour. Make sure that you're very clear about what you're delivering. Put things in writing. Keep things simple. This is a down and cotton sweater for a 10-pound dog. All sales are final. Simple is easier to sell and easier to deliver, and simpler is usually better for you and your customer. Walk away from difficult gigs and difficult people as quickly as possible. One of the worst mistakes that you can make as a new entrepreneur is to get involved with somebody who's really difficult. You want people who are easy to work with. You want people who see the world pretty much the way you do, not people who are inclined, for whatever reason, to get the maximum possible dollar out of every single person that they work with, or who are always assuming that people are trying to cheat them. It's always going to be problematic when you work with those people, and there's no reason to work with them. One of the benefits of running a business is deciding who you will and will not work with. Generally, if you're going to walk away from somebody, you want to walk away before they say yes to your offer. For example, let's say that you are thinking about doing a dog sitting business. Like, you'll come over to somebody's house and they're going to be gone for a week, and you're going to babysit their dog, live in their house, babysit their dog, and they're going to give you $1,000 or something or another. If that person that you're going to be working with has written a 100-page instruction book on how to care for their dog, he's probably not the best person for you to be working with as a new dog sitter, because it's going to be way too easy for you to get something wrong. And that's going to turn into financial trouble, because they may or may not pay you, or they may pay you and then try to take the money back and complain about you. They may decide to write bad Yelp reviews. It's just not worth the hassle. Recognize the warning signs of somebody who's going to be difficult and say, I don't think we're a good fit, and then just don't work with them. Be candid about what you aren't doing, and what you aren't selling. So someone who wants chocolate chip cookies is going to be mad if they get ginger snaps. So you want to strive for a complete meeting of the minds before you do a deal. No surprises is a really good rule when you're starting your business. Taking responsibility for a child, an animal, a home, or a car is a big deal. You really can't make any mistakes in your business when it involves high value elements like this. So make sure you have the right training or the right skills to do what you do, know what things can go wrong, and how to make sure they do not go wrong. Be prepared for emergencies, and if your business requires specific certifications or insurance, then get them. Be friendly, be calm, collected, and efficient. That's what it means to be professional. Strive to work with people who are like that as well. With good customers, good business is easy. With bad customers, no deal is ever done. Cool. So that covers sort of the presentation I was going to give, and now I'm going to go take a quick look at the chat window. Doom, doom, doom. Cool. So Joshua had asked, the video would be teaching us or someone live will? I am live, and it is not a video that was teaching you. This is me. Miriam said she was trying to share her business. It's a good effort. I appreciate it, Miriam, but all the messages went to me. Let's see. What's the next one? Arif asks, are we going to take full in advance or 50-50? Generally speaking, it depends on the size of the service that you're offering. If you're offering a service that's small, I tend to ask for 100% in advance and then say they can get a refund if they're not happy. Some people are really married to 50-50. I don't like 50-50. If I do have to do a 50-50 deal, then I usually make it twice as expensive, so I get paid in advance, and then it's a question if I'm going to get the rest of it. But I think most of the time you're better if you can get paid full in advance. If you think about the huge number of services that you pay for in advance, you'll realize almost everything. You either get paid in advance or you get immediately paid right away before you get it paid right as soon as the service is delivered. And the more expensive the service is, the more likely that you're going to pay in advance, just because, like with lawyers, they know that they can't get their time back. Now, Arif asks, are people going to pay 3 times our costs if we ask people? Here's the deal. You can't go to people and say, hey, I need to make $75 an hour. I need you to pay me $75 because I'm going to work for you for an hour, and I need to keep 25 for myself, and I have to use the rest of the money to pay my costs. That doesn't matter to them. Nobody cares what your costs are. Never take your costs and then say, tell the customer, this is how I'm basing my price. The way you sell the price to the customer is you say, the dog groomer down the block is charging you $100, and you have to take your dog to him. Whereas I will come to your house, and I'm only charging you $75, and your dog will be done in about an hour. And you'll get to watch me clean him, and he will have a great time, and you will have a great time, and you won't have to transport the dog either way. So the justification that you use when you're getting the price that you've named is what the customer is currently paying and what they're getting for that price. And you're going to say, look, you're going to pay me about the same or a little less, and you're going to get more. And here are the extra things that you're going to get. Cool. So the next one is, so if you're interested in offering, somebody is interested in offering web services, there's a huge number. So it's funny, because if you were to ask a bunch of people if you should start a web business, create websites for people or create online stores for people, etc., they might say there's 1 million people providing that service and they're all over the place and there's just no way to make money at it. But you know what? My experience is exactly the opposite. If you focus on people that you know personally, or people like businesses that are local to you, you may very well find there's a whole bunch of people that would pay you to set up their Shopify site, which is like really not particularly hard work, but it's hard work if you've never done it before. And it really feels like you're taking a huge risk because you have to set up stuff like Stripe, you have to set up stuff like PayPal, etc. So if people know you, they would much rather work with you because they know you personally and they're not handing over sensitive financial information to a complete stranger. So if you're going to offer web services, I recommend strongly that you offer them to people that you know or businesses that you know, and you become acquainted with people, because they'll be much more likely to work with you, and they'll want to work with you all the time. Because somebody that doesn't want to set up their online store, or doesn't want to set up their website, or doesn't want to do all their own web services like setting up their email, they're exactly the same kind of people that are never going to want to do that, and they're always going to want to pay somebody else to do that, and they will happily pay you if they trust you, and if you charge something like they're willing to pay, like $50 a month or $100 or $200 to set up, and then $50 a month to maintain. Point is, web services is not a hideous business, though many people would say it is. Let's see. So somebody says, what should I do if I offer a service that I want to partially subcontract to someone else, if I want to make a website and hire a professional friend to make some graphics? We haven't talked about employment. Generally speaking, I think you have to make it's tricky to hire people and pay them under the table. So I would hire them using Gusto. I would basically set it up, and you can hire people for just a few hours and pay them on the books using Gusto, and all the appropriate taxes will be taken out and they'll get a check. You can also use temp services to hire people. You can you can go to a temp service and you can say, hey, I'm going to hire you as my temp agency, and I'm going to tell you the people I want you to hire, and you're going to pay them, and I'm going to pay you. So you're in effect their employer, and even though I'm going to be telling them what to do. That's what temp agencies do. You didn't know that, but that's pretty much what temp agencies do. The advantage to doing that is that the temp agency will pay them at the end of the week, and you really aren't paying that much more. If you were going to pay somebody $400 to work with you, if you're going to pay somebody $400 to do 2 days of work for you, and you pay the temp agency, you'll end up paying them $250. But they handle all of the tax issues, because in effect they are the actual employer. So you are not paying the taxes. They are paying the taxes for you. That's why temp agencies were invented, is so that people, entrepreneurs and others who needed to hire people for short periods of time, would use the service to hire folks, so they didn't have to set up all the infrastructure required to pay people legally. So when you talk about subcontracting, what comes to mind is things like 1099, setting up somebody as a 1099 contractor, and that is just really risky these days. So it's much better to hire them through a temp agency, or to set up payroll using something like Gusto, in my opinion. Remember, I'm telling you what I do. Obviously, you can talk to lawyers and tax advisors and get a much better and more fulsome reply, and you absolutely should if you're going to make contractors a permanent part of your business. But I would look into working with temp agencies, or maybe working with Gusto. And temp agencies are pretty cool, actually. And if you go online and you say, I need a temp agency, you can find about 5 billion of them. Cool. Somebody says, do we need to have a business name before starting up? No. You can talk to a lawyer about how business names work, but I know a lot of people, their business name is just their name. Someone says, I'm selling life insurance and getting clients through Facebook. Is it more viable to build a business around life insurance sales and build a team, or focus on building a marketing lead company and work for bigger companies independently? I don't know. You're basically talking about two completely separate businesses. And if you're really good at getting customers, it might be the case. So one thing you can do, if you're really good at getting customers, is you can go into the business of getting customers for people. If I'm really good at prospecting, and I know exactly where to find 200 people a week who are interested in life insurance, many of whom will decide to buy, it might be better to find 3 or 4 life insurance companies who need me to do lead development and to get paid up front for that scouting, because they don't want to do it. And then let them go ahead and do all the part of closing the deal on the contract. Both of those are viable businesses. If it were me, I'd probably create a spreadsheet and start figuring out how much I can earn if I do one, and how much I earn if I do the other. And then if you do decide to work with life insurance companies and all those things, whenever you're starting a business, obviously you should reach out to people, professionals can be your tax advisors, people who do taxes for a living and who have some experience in the industry that you're working in, and also legal advisors, because when you're working with insurance and so forth and you're doing lead development, there might be rules that you have to follow and you'd want to make sure you knew what those were. Cool. So someone says, thank you for the educational ideas and tips, sharing your insights. It's been helpful and giving me some ideas that I'm excited to look into. Let's see. Arif says, how do we stand out from competitors? Actually, so hold on one second. Let's see. So actually, I didn't really talk about the competition. And if you were to go to RationalCo.com, I think there's a quiz you can take. So this is the thing. I'll show you in a minute, but there's a quiz there you can take about the competition. And one of the reasons I do quizzes is that I think a lot of times people know more than they think they know. And if they take a quiz, they realize that they knew it. So if you go to RationalCo.com, you will find that there are quizzes and there are articles and there are training videos, and a lot of stuff is free. Some stuff is free if you sign up for a free membership, and some things cost $5. You get access to everything on the site. And one of the things in there talks about competition. And here's the thing about competition. Competition is your very best friend. You know why? Because if you look at the competition, you can see how much they're charging. And you can see the package that they're providing, like the package of services they're providing. And you can go in and you can see what kind of customers are going in and talking to them and listen to the kinds of questions that people ask. So actually the competition is your very best friend. Also, if you were to sell your business, it would be your competition that bought it. So many times you would think that people that were in business would be at each other's throats. Actually, we're pretty much a ridiculously friendly community. Why? Because if someone's in competition with me and I decide to sell my business and my customers, like the contracts I have, I'm going to sell it to that guy, or I'm going to sell it to somebody just like him. So generally speaking, people in business, especially competitors, are nice to each other because you don't know when you're going to be working with them. Let's see. So somebody asked for a printout of the exercises. I'm going to be posting this video, making it available on RationalCo.com, so you can go check it out over there. Let's see. When it's available, you might have to pay $5 whole. You can cancel it anytime. Let's see. What about good digital product ideas? I could go on for days about digital products. You talking about books? What are you talking about? I got a lot of book things. If you're interested in digital products that are related to media, you can go find out how to make movies and podcasts and so forth on the NancyFultonMeetups.com website. There's a billion of media-based businesses, and those are all digital goods. And I think on RationalCo.com, there's a thing that talks about how to license stuff to make journals and to make coloring books and to make other kinds of diaries and so forth. You might go look at that. Cool. What if you want to offer a course? Is it better to do them all live, or is it viable to pre-record and sell it on a one-on-one basis? Both are good. I have to say people like live events a lot. They really like them. So I like to do live events, and people seem to be going to them. And if I'm going to make a video, I'm going to record it anyway. I might as well record it for a live audience. I think I get better content. Somebody's asking, what's the website? If you look down on the screen, if you look at the screen right now, see it says RationalCo.com. That's the website that has a lot of the materials. That's where this video will be going. Cool. Somebody says, can you recommend any lawyers to help structure the business? I do not recommend, generally speaking. There's too many people that you could possibly recommend. I am not momentarily recommending. If you go to RationalCo.com, there's a thing in there on how to make videos, and I think it talks about a couple of services that I use to create videos, training videos being an example. You could take a look at that, but I don't really have any recommendations for lawyers because, frankly, it depends on what state you're in. And also, all you got to do online is search for lawyers in your area and say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a business and I have some questions and I'm looking for somebody who can provide a very single price for setting up the company structure and can help me answer questions that I need to answer. And then you're going to find a lawyer who'll give you the right pricing, and they'll be licensed in your state, and they'll be available to you 24/7. And one of the reasons you want to do that is because if you talk to 5 or 10 lawyers, you'll end up finding somebody who's actually good that you actually want to work with. You know what I mean? Prospects, so Arif says, prospects always compare you with competition for the prices you're charging. So how do you handle this objection? It's an interesting question. First of all, when people compare your price to somebody else's price, it's not the price. It's the question is what are they providing? I think it's kind of stupid to compete on price as a general rule. And for the most part, you don't want to be the lowest cost. You want to be the best value. So you go, yeah, so you're saying that costs $50 and I'm charging you $100. Yeah, but for that 50, you're only getting A, B, and C. And with me, you're getting A, B, C, D, E, F. If you want A, B, C, D, E, F, you're spending $100. And if you want that, you're spending $50. Buy what you want, man. Cool. Oh, so Tammy, I'm going to go ahead and put something in the window. Hold on one second. So if you go, for those of us that are interested in media stuff, you can go to NancyFultonMeetups.com. Okay, so that's all the stuff that's related to, I've been running events for a very long time. I have, since 2015, I started teaching people how to make movies and so forth. RationalCo is me branching out just a little bit because it turns out I like to talk about more than movies. Not that I don't like movies, not that I don't like books, not that I don't like podcasts, not that I don't like teaching people how to create journals, love all of those things. It's just that I also want to help people start computer services companies and dog grooming companies. I just enjoy working with people starting businesses, and I wanted to branch out a little bit, and I didn't want to put it all on NancyFultonMeetups.com because there's already 100 workshops over there. It's getting crowded. So RationalCo is where I'm putting new stuff related to non-media businesses. So pick whichever one. Let me go ahead and put RationalCo. Cool. So if you want to do me a favor, send me an email. I'm going to go ahead and say Nancy at Nancy Fulton Meetups. Do me a favor, if you feel so inclined, send me an email talking about anything. The business that you want to start, the problems that you've had starting the business, the questions that nobody wants to answer. Just send me anything you think about that I should be running events about. It will really help me. Also, if you want to send me a list of what you think would be absolutely the perfect kind of business to help you start your business, let me know. In the past, people have said, I wish there was a forum where I could exchange ideas with other startup businesses. And whenever I tried to do that, it's never worked because people, turns out, they don't want to talk to strangers about their business. But if that's something you want, you put it in the email to me. If just anything that you can think of, I would really be interested. Let me go ahead and see if I can do it again. I'll share the links again. Boom. So I'll put it again. RationalCo.com. That's better. And then Nancy at NancyFultonMeetups.com. And there's also, and then NancyFultonMeetups.com is the one that's all media. And that one's been running for many years. And it covers writing books, making movies, writing screenplays, raising money from investors, podcasts. Cool. So, RationalCo, normal businesses, Nancy Fulton Meetups, other businesses. Cool. Actually, Dominic makes an interesting point. He says, I think addressing opportunity costs when making business decisions would be important. So, if you don't know what opportunity cost is, it's a really big problem. And the more competent you are and the more skilled you are, the more difficult it is. Let's say, for example, I am a lawyer. Let's say and this is a common thing. I am a lawyer. I have made money doing law for a long time, and I am totally sick of it. I never want to do law again. So I do want to start a business, but I don't know what business to start. And as I think about starting businesses, like, for example, I think maybe I would like to be a famous book author like Grisham, or maybe I would like to be a screenwriter like those folks that work in Hollywood, or maybe I would like to be a musician. The problem is that the amount of money that I can guaranteed make as a lawyer is always going to be more than the amount of money that I can make from these new businesses. That is a very common thing. How do you factor that? How do you figure out what to do? And in my personal, the way I've handled that problem in the past is I start little businesses. So I like to make money, so I do pretty much what pays best, but I then do other things that I truly love, this being one of them, because I can make money doing it. And also, I love doing it. And if it grows, that's great. If it doesn't, I had a great time doing it. And that's how Nancy Fulton Meetups went and has gone. And it's been profitable every single year. And I run events pretty regularly. And people seem to really like them. And I've helped a lot of people. So that's one of the ways I've handled the opportunity cost, is I do both. But sometimes that's not possible. Arif says, raising money from investors. That's an interesting topic. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to raise money from investors. I'm not a securities attorney. If you're interested in learning how to raise money from investors, there's new ways to do it. Equity crowdfunding, which is very cost effective. People do it all the time. If you go look at I think, what is it called? There's a whole bunch of, just go look up equity crowdfunding. So a lot of people I know, because I work in the entertainment industry, some people fund their projects by getting private investors, but more and more are using equity crowdfunding instead. Anne says, do I start a new LLC when I branch out? Like now that I'm working on RationalCo? Generally speaking, I don't have to, because it's really just media. So the company does, when I started the company, I designed it so that it was a company that did all the things that I normally do, which is a lot of technical things, technical support, analysis, application development, et cetera, as well as the content creation stuff that I do, which includes doing workshops and videos like this one. So if you design your LLC so it does all the things, or is set up so you can take money for doing all the kinds of things that you normally do, then you don't have to keep starting them over and over again unless you want to separate risks or something like that, or you're taking different investors for different companies. That's one of the reasons you talk to a lawyer is about setting up your company structure, and maybe 2 or 3 or 4 lawyers, is to tell them, look, this is what I'm thinking about doing, this is what I currently do. Do I need and I don't necessarily want to have 3 or 4 companies, because it gets expensive. A lot of tax, you have to file a lot of taxes. But I also want to make sure that I'm compliant with any laws or whatever I have to be compliant with. Cool. So Dominic says, time management and self-accountability when starting a business without external structure. Yeah, I can see where your mind's going, Dominic. It sounds like you've got the accountability thing. It has to be, if you're starting a business and you've made a lot of money in the past, or you've made good money in the past, and you are trying to change careers, what happens is you have to find something as the other business that you really want to do. So time management and self-accountability don't become stressful, right? If you have to force yourself to do it, then that's problematic. If it's something that you can't wait to do. If you're a book author and you've been working as a lawyer for 20 years, by the time you get the freedom to write a book, you just can't wait to write. So you're writing all the time. So hopefully you'll find something you care so much about that you'll leap into it like a fish to water, and you'll just want to do it all day, every day. And if there's a time management issue, it's the fact that you're spending more time on the part-time business than you are on the one that pays. Cool. All right, I had a great time, and thank you very much for hanging out with me. I will be running more events. If you go follow me, like on Eventbrite, that would be a great thing. I think it would be helpful, because that way when you hear about new events, you can sign up for them. And also, at RationalCo.com, go get resources. There's a bunch of stuff already there, including a couple of there are multiple 1-hour events talking about topics like how to sell without fear, etc. Thank you very much. I had a great time. Have a great evening, you guys.